back, N1JUR, and wait a minute. I'm with the new co-host today, Mike.
Mike, N2MAK. Red cup, no red hair.
Totally fine.
I'm trying.
As long as there's some red somewhere, then thank you for coming in and hanging out with us. We got some really cool stuff that we're going to talk about in a bit. But if you're watching in the chat there this morning, say hello. We'd love to see where you guys are tuning in from. I see Shannon, although who is not here, is busy in the chat, hammering away, saying hello. So
Yeah,
she can't keep her away, no matter what. So. All right. Well, if you're with us first time, well, welcome. And this is Brew and Activate. It's all about real-world POTA, tiles, SOTA, anything portable operations. We love to talk about the wins, the slow days, the weird stuff, and lessons you might learn. And then we do some adjacent stuff as well. So, today we're going to get into some of that. But again, whether you activate, you hunt, or you're just the POTA curious type, well, hell, you're in the right place. Okay, well, with that, we always have a lot to get into today, and there's a lot of cool things going on. But today is a special day, so if you found us through our many post social updates, whatnot, we are going to do a special giveaway in honor of what we're talking about today. This is the ARRL's VHF Contest weekend coming up, and so we brought Mike on. Because I know last week we were talking a little bit around, or starting to talk in our three-part series about SWR, resonance, and all of those other things. We're going to get that back into full swing next week, but we figured since Shannon wasn't here, and she's off on site at this moment on special projects. Miles is graduating from, I think, first to second, right, Shannon? I could be wrong. But everybody welcome, well wishes, and make Mama proud. Moments, so we're looking forward to hearing all of that next week. But with that, we've got a few housekeeping items that we're going to get into before we talk. And one of those things is obviously because we're talking VHF and a little bit of contesting today. We've got a special opportunity presented to us. So I reached out to Radioddity to see if they would be interested in kind of giving away a special radio for VHF contesting weekend this weekend, and they obliged. And so we're going to be doing a giveaway at the end of the show, and we'll get into more of those details in a bit. So sit tight on that. But as always, heck, if you're always trying to get more Brew and Activate content, the easiest way is if you're not able to tune into the live stream as we do every Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, then you can head over to your favorite podcast player and search for Brew and Activate and pick us up there. Every episode from our live stream gets converted to a podcast format, so you can pick it up and listen to it to your heart's content any time of the day or the week. So you always stay in step with us and don't miss any of the fun, great stuff. And as always, we want to make sure you guys know that, heck, if you want to support the show, the easiest and simplest way is to obviously subscribe, like, and share this with all of your best buds and friends on every Discord. Just let people know that, heck, we're out here and we are talking POTA. So if you've got friends who share that same stuff as we do here, then, please invite them along, have them be part of the Brew crew here. And you can also support the show through heading over to our merch store. I mean, Mike and I, we're sporting our couple of shirts off the show. He's wearing the official Brew Crew Brew and Activate tee. It comes in many colors and is a great addition to all of your ham gear. I'm wearing my POTA Runs on Duckin' t-shirt, and there's a whole bunch of hats and swag. There's also Shannon's POTA wagon and a bunch of other things. And we're always adding stuff to the store. So, come support us. You can do that through, obviously, our storefront. Or maybe you might be interested in being part of the Brew Crew community. And that's as simple as just joining the YouTube channel there and becoming a member. There's a lot of great perks, a lot of awesome things to get involved in the community. And it's one way you can help support the show. But most of all, we like to keep all of these streams super, super clean. We don't like the YouTube ads. We don't like interrupting and getting interrupted. So we always ask every week, hey, if we want to keep the stream clean, keep you know, the YouTube ads out of your face, then you know, we always you can always help by supporting us by super chats, and every week we've tried to set that minimum goal of $10 to be able to keep this show ad free. And for your viewing pleasure. So, you know how to do that. You can always hit the little super chat button. And again, that is one way you guys can help support the show. And lastly, I'm going to, you know, put a last, you know, plug out there. Actually, two things, because I think the second one's important, but it'll be more details. The next one is, we brew Beard or Bust. And so those might know, we have been plugging away at that. We've got a bunch of folks that have donated and you know, contributed, and so I think we're up to $182 now, or $186 now. So it's climbing. But again, you know, head over to my site n1jur.com /beer-or-bust, or just find the link there on the main homepage on the article, and you can help support that. Again, 100% of the proceeds to raising that will, one, obviously get me, you know, making myself look like Grizzly Adams, for anybody who doesn't know that reference, or you know, and that money that we'll have will either donate directly to TI for Teachers Institute, or we have this opportunity. There's a local ham club starting in a high school that our club has supported the teacher, sending them. Oh, here we go. They're already rolling in. Thank you, Mike, for $220. Appreciate that. I caught that reference quickly. Coffee story kicked it in. I'm quite happy. Yeah. And so, you know.
Sorry, real quick.
Go ahead.
As you're talking about not wanting to be interrupted.
No, that's fine. Totally fine.
No, we got a new member, so congrats to Mad KX2. Or thank you, I should say, for joining and becoming a member.
Yes, definitely. Appreciate that. A good catch on that one, Mike.
Yes.
And so we will be doing a possibility of being able to donate that $500 to that high school to be able to let them buy more ham radio equipment, get more students licensed. You know, the list goes on. And there might be a possibility to even have those students and that teacher come on and, you know, share all of their experiences and the support from what you guys and our community can do for that. So, you know, that's a couple of ways. So we're tossing that around. So if you want to keep pouring into that, please. It's a great way to help contribute back to the ham radio community. And heck, you know, I'll look furry soon enough. Okay, all right. So enough of me rambling on here. How are you doing this morning, Mike?
I am doing good. I took the day off to get prepped for the contest this weekend, and we'll talk more about that later. But yeah, it's been busy with work and the kids and everything, and I got a few hours tomorrow that I can carve out to do the contest, and there's a lot that's involved with bringing gear up to a SOTA summit for 6 different bands.
Let alone you need a POTA wagon.
And I will be using the POTA wagon tomorrow, but I want to take a couple hours today to kind of just go through and get all my gear out, and you know, it takes a lot of time, and so I just make sure everything's all good and stuff. So it's you know, you get one shot, you know, I get one shot at this, you know, I want to make sure I get it right, and so but yeah, I'm enjoying the day off, glad to be here, and looking forward to a lot of radio this weekend.
Are you going to be doing more high power stuff, or are you going to still try to stay HT, so it's all, you know, low power?
I am going to be, and I'll maybe touch on this when we get into some of the slides, but I'm going to be doing a category that's called single op portable, and that's basically the QRP, 10 watts or less, and it has to be portable. You can't do it from a fixed station. So I that's how I first did this, and years ago, and I've done a whole bunch of different categories, but I've want to kind of get back to my roots. It's been a while since I did this one, and it should be fun.
Now, is it one op only, or are you going to have a buddy there that's, oh wow. So
just me.
You're really taking the bull by the horns.
Yeah, there are some rules in the contest where you cannot share equipment unless it's an immediate family member. So I could do it with my son, you know, if he wanted to, which he doesn't, and he's got to work. I could technically, you know, I could go out and share stuff with my son, but if you and I went, according to the contest rules, you wouldn't be able to use my gear, you know, so you couldn't do a pass the mic type thing. So,
yeah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So, interesting.
At least that's my reading of it and how
so
it works.
I never understood this. Like, VHF and UHF is technically harder to get involved in anyway for equipment. Why do they put a barrier or a gatekeeping kind of component to it when they're trying to get more people into the hobby? Like, it kind of makes no sense. Like, why would you limit the rules that much to like isolate people from participating?
I'm not sure, and you know, and I think everyone's different. You know, I would imagine with it being harder to get that, you know, you send somebody out, you know, or a group of people out with, say, like ICOM 905, right? And you know, they're operating in the gigahertz bands and everything else, and just doing a pass the mic, and it's just you know, N2 MAK FN13 QSL, hand the mic over, N1JUR FN13 QSL, you know, and then you're padding scores and stuff like that. I guess I don't know really. I think contesting in general, and Kyle, AA0Z, Aardvark Astronaut 0 Zebra or something, you know, he's pointed. There's a lot of, I think, changes that could be made to improve contesting. One of them is, you know, clearly like the results, getting things sooner. But like when I look at the VHF, I like the QRP category, and there's only one, and it's that single op portable. There is not a QRP category for roving, for example, which I think would be nice. I think that would be a cool thing to do. But when I rove, then it's like, you know, now all of a sudden you could go up to like 200 watts or something, you know, in one category, more in another. I'd have to look at the power settings, but you know, I wish that there were some options like that. And so I think at the end of the day, you know, as hams, we're really good at looking at something and saying, "Oh, I could do that better,"
or making it more complex. That's a nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
How can we try to, you know, incorporate everybody's demands and make it so muddy that, you know, nobody can read the rules?
I could do that cheaper. That's way too expensive.
I hate that line. I'm like, guys, you know, you're gonna spend more in the long run, but don't get me going. Okay, kick the soapbox out from underneath. Cool.
Hey,
right,
Kevin, thanks for joining.
Good morning, Kevin. You want to grab those 5 people there? I can do that. I got them more in front of me. So I got 5 new memberships. Thank you, guys. Frequency Frontiers, KY4 Gulf Mike, James Ski 50EB668. Thank you. Pepe and Adam, KD5EF, and Carver E. Bain. Thank you, guys, for getting those memberships, and congratulations. And we'll be sending out some welcome notices and posts. So welcome to the Brew Crew.
James is a big winner. I think James won on the live stream I had with Walt. I think he won the gift card I gave away to DX Engineering.
Well, that explains why he's here today. He's just
it could have been the book, but I think it was the gift card, and I think he said he was going to buy the book with the gift card because I think DX Engineering is selling.
That's the fish eating the fish kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, very cool. All right. Well, we're going to get into a lot more VHF stuff in a bit there. So let's keep plugging away here. Just one little mention. Shannon had brought this up a couple of episodes. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. A program that she thought would be really cool to get involved in called International Museums on the Air. And so offline, her and I had some discussions and conversations around it because I've got a couple of relationships in my professional career with museums. And there was a museum that that I'm familiar with and good friends with the director. And his father, or grandfather, I should say, is I wouldn't say world-renowned ham, but he's very well known in the 160-meter space by his call sign and stuff like that. He has passed on since, but his grandson family, kind of created an homage to his setup in the museum. So there's a keyer, there's his certificates for the 160 band and a bunch of other ham radio related stuff. And so when this kind of came about, I was like, oh, that'd be really cool. We should go do a station there. And so long story short, things are kind of coming together. So pay attention to my website over at n1jur.com, because I'll have more details over there where I can, keep you guys on the loop. But Shannon and I will be doing a special event station. So if you're in the New Hampshire, Northeast area, and you're interested in kind of participating in that, hit me up. Easiest way to do it is on the Discord. And that link is actually pinned at the top of the chat there. So if you're not part of the Discord, head on over there, join in. Let me know that you'd be interested. That way we can, get you roped in on more of the details. But that's going to be a fun opportunity. I'm looking forward to, participating in that for, that weekend. And it's pretty cool. I get to geek out, and, Shannon and I get to play some radio in a really cool museum. So. All right. Well,
thanks for mentioning that, because I got to check into I'm lucky, and you can see the image where in my virtual background is from the Antique Wireless Association's. It used to call it the Antique Wireless Museum, but it's like now it's like the Communication Technologies Museum. That's like maybe a half hour from where I live, and a lot of fantastic exhibits here, from like you see all the Zenith stuff, which I just love, from growing up, but lots of amateur radio, military radio stuff, Telegraph, Western Union, and they have a station here, and they've done some activities I actually got to use a couple years ago during one of their AM events, a Collins K1W, and do like a kilowatt on 40 meter AM, which was just like sick.
That is intense, yes.
But now that you mention that, I gotta look, and I'll have to see how they're participating or what they're doing, because they have the station there for members, and I am a member.
Well, then there you go. So
I will put a link in the chat so that people can see, at least learn a little bit about the museum.
Yeah, so Mike will throw his link in there. The link I just threw in there is the International Museums on the not on the air, but it's a 2 weekends, I think, in June. So it's the last 2 weekends. The second weekend happens to fall on Field Day, but that's par for the course. Hey, it's all good. And so I saw a lot of the videos you did on that wireless museum walkthrough and the special operation on the AM stuff. It was pretty cool. So that would be even awesomer that, if you could do it the same weekend we we could try to, do a short path, connection over AM or something. But at this point, we'll have to see how the museum is. It's going to be a challenge to put up antennas there, but not that it can't be overcome. So,
yep.
Okay. Well, with that, as you might have picked up on, again, we've got a special sponsor today because we're talking VHF and UHF. We figured I'd reach out to one of the sponsors, Radioddity, say, hey, would you guys like to throw in something special for us in the discussion today? Because, we obviously want to get more people on the air, getting them, radio active, I guess is the ARRL term there, and we want to make RF weird as always. So I reached out to Radioddity and said, hey, I'm going to be having an expert on. Sorry, Mike, I put you in that category, but you are when it comes to VHF, UHF stuff. And I said, we're going to be talking VHF, UHF, and we've been trying to push 220 a little bit. Would you be interested in throwing in a special option? And they said, gladly, we'd love to. So today, Radioddity is just sponsoring a giveaway of the UV5 RX3. Man, that's a mouthful sometimes, but that's a tri-band radio. So if you haven't picked one up yourself, it might be an opportunity today to do that. And again, it's to encourage you to start using bands like 220 and things like that we have available to us, but we just don't always use or don't always get involved. And it's perfect. I mean, obviously it won't be for this weekend, but maybe next year you'll be ready. And there's probably one more contest, a VHF contest coming up too as well, I think, outside of just
September.
This one.
Yeah, they do it January, June, and September, and I'll kind of touch on why a couple of those months in the presentation. It's very deliberate, in my opinion. Cool. I don't know. I don't do the contest because if I did, as we mentioned earlier, they'd be a lot different. But I suspect that there is a method to this madness, which I'll touch on.
I'm sure there is. Very cool. Well, we'll definitely dive into that. But that would be great for those opportunities. So you know, you have an opportunity to stick around till the end the show here, and we'll do a giveaway. So appreciate Radioddity for throwing that in there and being part of today's episode there as well. And heck, if you're in the market and you want to help support, obviously, the channel here, that's one easy way. You can head over to Radioddity's website, and you can use or my custom code here. I'll throw that in there. Why not? You know, selfish plug. Mike's also got one if Mike wants to throw his in there too as well. You know, you can either or, no problem. And you can get $15 off your next purchase, and you know, buy yourself something. You know, as Walt says, you know, it helps me and helps yourself, and it's a win-win both ways. So, okay. Now, let's get into our usual segments here. Actually, I forgot to do roll call, man. Mike, actually, I can do it since I've got it up here. We've got a lot of people here in the chat. It's been crazy. I appreciate Shannon. Not that Mike isn't doing it, but Mike's our guest here, and he's obviously talking VHF. So we got a lot of folks here. Obviously, Shannon was here earlier. Good to see you there. Roger. Awesome. Mad KX2. Haven't met him before, but good to see you join the show. We've got, I already said Rabbit Ham. Pepe's in there.
You missed Rabbit, but he's there, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I just missed Rabbit. Sorry, I saw it so many times. Foxtrot Fred. James is in there. Hamman, Connecticut. Good to see you guys. Forrest Linden. Welcome. I haven't met you. Welcome to the Brew Crew. Thank you again for joining. And man, we got the Damned, TSC 547. Frequency Frontiers is in there. James, we already mentioned earlier. K9 JPP is in there. And I think, and Ham Radio QRP, Kevin. So I think, the list keeps going. And Kyle, November 9, Zed. And I think, did I get everybody there? Yeah, I think I did. Awesome. Okay. Oh, and Bob. Thank you, Bob. And so, yeah, Bob has been sneaky. He's the one who actually threw $100 at the Beard or Bust challenge. So, you know, he's the big winner there so far in terms of holding the top spot. Wow. So thank you, Bob, for that. And I appreciate Bob very much. He supports the channel, and all you guys who support the channel. It's definitely helpful. And you can do it, like I said, many different ways, and all of them help keep, us and Ham Radio in the center focus of people's YouTube feeds there. Let's kick it off. Okay, well, this is the POTA Minute. It's one small idea, one real-world observation. Got 60 seconds just to get you thinking. Again, no right answer here. It's just the stuff I start noticing after a few activations, maybe a few thousand hunts. Again, hey, I want to hear this in the chat. If it's happened to you, then say so. If you do it differently, then definitely chime in. And so with that, let's go right to the POTA Minute here. So this one's all titled, Missing is Learning. Didn't get through in a POTA pileup, didn't, get your call, shout back to you in a POTA activation or tiles activation. Well, good. Simple and easy. That's feedback. That's good feedback. That's feedback that you can take back with you and figure out, hey, what do I need to do? How do I need to change things up? Again, every missed call makes that next call even better. And I have to say, in where the ban conditions are now, you will get, the RF will slap you upside the head and say, nope, they aren't hearing you, not happening. And, you got to be okay with that. And you got to figure out how to, improve your operating style or your antenna setup or your radio gear. But the fine thing is that every missed contact is always going to tell you something. And I got to stress that because I think a lot of us just kind of like feel bad for ourselves or scream louder or do something, kind of knee-jerk reaction. And really, that's not what we should be kind of thinking. We should be thinking a little bit more, level-headed. How do we fix our timing? How do we deal with the band shifts? Maybe you were calling into a wall of louder stations. I've heard, POTA activators out there calling QRZ, and they're like a 5.6, 5.7 for me, and I think I can get them. And then a big station comes pounding in, and I get drowned out. It's definitely some feedback that you want to use to your advantage. Maybe applying some skill. And so, I guess I'm gonna leave it there, Mike. Anything you want to throw to that?
No,
Okay.
I know a lot of us in amateur radio can, whether we're afraid to fail or we just don't like it, there's always an opportunity to learn there. And, and this is a good example. Why am I not getting through? And, some of it can be the timing stuff, but other times you take a hard look at your antenna or think about propagation and all kinds of other things. So
I love AI. Like I never tell it to do anything specific when it comes to like adding elements, but because it reads into all of my feed, you have pigs who are radiating RF on the top of mountains. You've got them standing on top of satellite antennas. I don't know.
And I'm looking at, what caught me off guard in the log is the fact I don't think you got Whiskey 1 Alpha Whiskey on 20 meters. I think they are in, is it the skip zone or whatever? Or I think they're a little too close for 20, and then you gave them a 579.
Yes, I know, right. Am I doing Morse code or am I doing voice? I can't decide.
Well, yeah, the radio is clearly in the CW digital portion, but
there's no keyer.
But 579 is an interesting signal.
Better than 567, but yeah.
Yeah.
That should be fine. The piggy for the prize. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I would say that might be a future game. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, that is the POTA Minute there. And so again, just to let you guys know, this is a Radiodity sponsored show. And so I like to want to make sure I give them the credit for being able to throw a radio in there and being part of the community here. So again, we're giving away that 5RX3 soon. So sit tight, but we've got some really cool stuff to talk about with Mike today. So, stick around till the end. It's definitely coming.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's kind of get into our topic today. I brought Mike on because obviously Shannon is sans at graduation with Miles, as we all have learned earlier, and so everybody give a round of applause to Miles graduating from 1st to 2nd grade. There'll be many more, I'm sure. I don't ever remember like with our kids going to like those mini graduations, but maybe I just blanked it out in my life. And so for what it's worth, she's off doing that. And so, Mike said, hey, can I step in for Shannon? I said, well, if you can wear a red wig, then, the opportunity's open for you. He didn't bring the red wig, but he brought the red cup, so I think that'll suffice. And with that, he said he was prepping for the VHF ARRL contest this weekend. And around here, at least in the New Hampshire area for me, I find it's more of a points giving thing for us. So I'll be out driving in the middle of the day. I'll get on FM and I'll give a couple of skeds with a few of our local club members who are VHF guys, and never really kind of paid attention to it because I stay in the HF space, and a lot of POTA folks do. And so that's why I kind of want to bring Mike on, because I think he can expand our knowledge through the contest, obviously, but more so just with a way to be able to think about when we do our next POTA activation or tiles or whatever, try the VHF UHF space. It might surprise you. And so I'm going to throw it over to Mike, and so he's going to talk all around all the stuff he's going to be doing for the contest and prepping for it. And hopefully, if you got questions, throw them in the chat, and we'll make sure we get them to Mike. But Mike, welcome. Thanks again for coming to hang out with us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me to talk about this. I get excited for these contests because I look at it as an opportunity to learn and have fun doing things that you normally don't get the opportunity to do so. And there's going to be a lot of activity. So, and if there's any takeaway, like, look at the contest as an opportunity. It's a contest, but it does not have to be a contest. You can make contacts. You don't need to worry about logging or submitting or this or that. It's fine. Okay. The first time that I did it was it's my very first video on my channel. Was I did a SOTA with my son and a friend who had just picked up the 705, which he later sold to me. And we intentionally did our first Summits on the Air activation during the September VHF contest because we wanted to try 2-meter sideband. And we figured that was the best opportunity, was to go up high and do it during a contest weekend. And, and that kind of spirit has kind of followed me through, the whole RF around and find out, take advantage of opportunities. And so this is a really good opportunity. If you go into this without that fear of failure or, not getting through, to try some things that are different. And I have learned so much from operating on VHF and above that I feel it's definitely made me a better HF operator, because when you get into these extremes, everything matters more. And we'll kind of touch on that. But let's talk about some of the basics with the contest first. So the contest is going to be this weekend. And if you go to the website, which is on the slide, or if you just Google, like I do a bazillion times, I just always type in June VHF Contest, and it'll bring you there. It is this weekend. The time's up there. I selfishly converted into Eastern time, but the UTC times are on the website, and so it is this weekend. These contests happen in January, June, and September, and I'll talk a little bit more when we get into propagation about why that is. But this is for 6 meters and above, 50 megahertz and up, and any legal mode. So unlike some other activities and contests where they restrict modes or you can't do FT8, you can do anything, any legal mode you can do. You could do Meshtastic if you wanted to flip it into ham mode so that you're not encrypted, and you want to do that exchange, which is simply your call sign in your 4-character maiden grid. So for me, I'm in FN13, but I'll be operating from FN12. If you can do that exchange point to point with Meshtastic, for example, you can make a 900 megahertz contact. So any valid, mode, any valid band, above 50 megahertz is fair game. Okay. Where there is a difference, though, is, we do POTA a lot. We can go out and POTA, and I can work you, for example, on 40-meter sideband and say, hey, switch to AM. Let's see if we can make this on AM too. And then that's a second contact, because we worked 2 different modes. Yes, it was the same band. Not here. You can work the same station. I could work you on 6 meters and 2 meters, 220. But we want just one mode. Once you get that contact on that band, you move to the next. You don't. Oh, so, okay. So if that makes sense, if I'm articulating that correctly, you can make multiple contacts with a station, but only one per band. Right. Doesn't matter what mode, but
Yep. Right. You just can't submit multiple modes for the same band. Got it.
Yep. Yep. And I won't get into all the categories, but there's a lot of different ways if you do want to participate like I do. And I've tried to switch this up a number of times. There's different ways that you can participate. There are, I mentioned rovers. And rovers are there's some really fantastic setups that some of these people have with their car. Like the Stealth GTI is the pinnacle.
Local, more close to home is Chris. Yeah, KI1B.
I mean, these stations are phenomenal, right? You can go and you can rove multiple grids, and that's attractive because grids are like multipliers when you do this and you get into the scoring. I don't pay much attention to the scoring. I submit my logs, and it is what it is. I go have fun when I can, and I try different things, But yeah, you can rove and you can go to multiple locations. You can just do like the lower 4 bands and operate on 6, 2 meters, 220, and 70 centimeters. There's an FM only category. I did that one year. just to see what can I do with FM.
Oh, I didn't know there was an FM only. That's cool.
Yep, there's an FM only one. There's all kinds of other classifications for those that run higher power. You see like this limited and unlimited category, and it has to do with like your power limits and some stuff like that. So there's, if you want to participate, and submit the score and kind of see what you do, then that you can do that. I'm doing single op portable, and there's two factions of that. There's single op portable analog only, which is what I'll be doing. So I'm restricted to voice or CW. So for me, voice. And then there's a single op portable, like for all modes, which includes digital. Digital is very popular, and it gets some people into tizzy because of how much FT8 happens in these. For me, I've done everything, but I just want to minimize what I'm carrying up the summit. Right. So I'm going to stick to the analog this time, but I mentioned digital before and FT8. There's gonna be a lot of activity on FT8, so definitely check that out and stuff. But there's lots of different categories. There's ways that you can participate based on what you plan, how you plan to operate, what your station's capabilities are, and so.
Now, have you done any FT8 at all in these contests, or no?
Yep. Oh yeah,
okay.
yeah, and like you look at the waterfall sometimes, and it's like I did it. I think last year in June, I think I I took a photo, and it was just lit. It was crazy because there was an opening, and
yeah,
but yeah, ultimately, check it out if you're really thinking about doing it. And there's lots of ways to participate, and ultimately anyone that's on the other side of the QSO is going to be happy to get you in the log because it's going to be a couple points for them.
Yeah.
So,
well,
so yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because we have a lot of club members in at least my local club who this is their weekend that they contribute and stuff like that, and it's kind of funny. Short story is our repeaters at a VHF contester's location, so he has to literally ask the club not to use the repeater for the whole entire weekend because it affects his whole scoring and being able to use his antennas and the whole 9 yards. So our repeater for pretty much this weekend is shut down while he's doing the VHF UHF contest, in general. So it's just kind of funny. But yeah, he's very much, switched that to now he's doing more FT8, and, he's like, oh yeah, you can now use the repeater, no problem. So it's just kind of funny how the dynamics changed and, how FT8's become so popular.
Yep. And I get it. It's fun because I'm going to be calling out on sideband on 6 meters, and if there's not openings, it's going to get lonely, and same thing. If I switch over to 2 meter sideband and call it, it's going to get lonely, but there'll still be activity, but you can easily set up. And when you look at the scoring, if people get focused on scores, because the grid squares are multipliers, and FT8, you're going to be able to work farther out because it's going to have really good ears picking up weak signals. You get those unique grids across the country or across the pond, and your score is going to go through the roof.
So just sidebar, James said in chat there, maybe we can get into this a little bit. He says, live in Oklahoma and don't get any mounted advantage. Any suggestions? If you want to put a pin in that, we can go back to that.
Yep.
If you got, okay. So coming soon, James. So
yeah. So let's see.
So a question, like the one thing, and maybe you're getting up to this, and if you are, just cut me off, is that in the process of you doing this, do you find like you're spending the whole entire day doing the contest, or are you just like, because you set up so many schedules with people and then there's just so many like breaks, because you're not going to be able to, like in HF you could literally work people all day, but VHF UHF probably not so much. Like, do you find like by the time 2 o'clock rolls around, everything's dried up?
The contesters that do this, that are serious, I mean, they're doing this all day. Like they're going right through, they have amazing stations that they've invested in, and they love the fact, like, this is, it's like the Super Bowl 3 times a year. It's they can really get out and do some amazing things. So they take it seriously, and they should, because they've made those investments and everything. And for me, I go play when I can, and I don't have anything set up at the house, so I generally rove, or I do the single op portable category. And I don't have a good roving setup, so I spend a lot of time setting up and taking down. I mean, we get into it here as we're talking about radios and antennas. I'm setting up multiple radios. My videos, if you see any of my videos from the VHF contest, you don't see me making contacts. It's too chaotic, because I'm working somebody on one band and one radio, then I'm running over to another radio to get them on the next band. And there's a lot of setup and prep that goes into it, because you're not going out with just one radio and one antenna. I'm going out with multiple things, and then on different bands, some bands I'm running horizontal and vertical, which we'll touch on when we get into the propagation and the antenna stuff. But yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot that's involved, but I make the time when I can, and it's at the end of the day, you do what you can with what you got. And
Right.
I'll use that as a segue into some of the radios. I have the 905, or I wish I had the 905. I have the
Yeah, we all do.
705,
Yeah.
the ICOM. But here's a couple of classic examples. So the ICOM 7100, the Yaesu 991A, these are traditional, shack in the box, 100-watt radios. They will put out 50 watts on VHF and UHF. I think maybe the ICOM is 50 watts on 2 meters, 40 watts on 70 centimeters, or something similar. And I'm not sure exactly with the Yaesu, but the key thing is that these are the shack in the boxes, but they will also do all mode. So you can do sideband on 2 meters. You can do FT8 on 2 meters. You can do CW on 2 meters. You get that option, which you don't from your typical mobile HF 50-watt transceiver that you might have in your car or truck. There's QRP versions of these radios too. The ICOM 705, the Yaesu FTX 1F, those will give you the all band, all mode options on 2 meters and 70 centimeters, along with 6 meters. Couple key differences I'll point out with the 705 and the 1F though is there is 2 antenna ports on the Yaesu. There's one on the ICOM. So I use a duplexer. I used to use an antenna switch, but I've made the mistake of forgetting to switch antennas. So I have the distinct
ISWR.
honor of making a 70 centimeter sideband contact with a 6 meter dipole. And I was like, why is my SWR off the chart? I got the contact done and I realized, I forgot to hit the switch. So using the duplexer, that I have lets me, automatically, put out, I'll have a 6 meter antenna. Then I got one that's for 2 and 70. So I don't have to manually make that switch. It's going to automatically filter that out. But the Yaesu does have 2 antenna ports, which is nice. There's 2 ports on the 7100 and the 991A as well. So,
Okay.
but those are the options if you want to get into the weak signal stuff. And the weak signal, you're going to be able to do more. You can get out further with sideband, CW, and FT8 than you can with FM. FM has a much wider bandwidth. And there's a characteristic to FM that's a lot different. I think, what's it called? I was just reading this in my book. The threshold effect. So FM can be a lot like a LiFePO battery. It's going, and then boom, it's done. It's right off the cliff.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Okay.
I
Yep.
killed my battery during a 6 meter FT8 activation like a week ago. It just was just like, nope, I'm done. No more. Whereas with sideband and weak signal modes, it kind of fades away. And so you can work those weaker signals if you have, lower noise floors, a lot easier than you could FM, where it just right off the cliff. And so, the weak signal modes are preferred, but it's not necessary. And if all you have is a 2 meter, 70 centimeter FM mobile, you can still have a lot of fun and make some contacts on 5.2 and 446 and stuff. So don't let that get in the way. And 1.25 meters and some of these other bands like 33 centimeters, a lot trickier. I'll be on FM on those bands because the rigs that are all mode are unicorns. They're not made anymore, and so you get into this position where you have to get transverters. I could get a transverter for 220, and then I'd probably use my ICOM 705 on 10 meters as the frequency to go into the transverter, and then I could do weak signal. Now you're introducing complications and other things, and it's a lot trickier. And I haven't got to that point yet. I will at some point.
And you're already bringing a boatload of gear and everything else like that. Why complicate it even more?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see here.
Okay.
So that kind of covers the radios, and we're giving away a tri-band one. So that this is, like Eric said earlier, if you don't have 220 capability, well, you win it, you will. And there's some things you could do. You can make a simple ladder line lamp cord J pole for 220 and put that thing up a little bit, and you'd be surprised. That's how I started with a tri-band HT and a J pole for 220. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So let's talk about antennas though, because this is what we love.
Hey, Mike, hold on there 1 second. So yes, Handman, congratulations. You added me first. Yep, there was a little Easter egg in Mike's slides. You picked up on it. It's the little Utica beer. So thank you again for staying focused. So make sure I got all your contact info. If you can, just send me a quick email at eric@m1jur.com with your address information, and I'll get it out to you, man. Thank you. Go, Mike.
Yeah, so this is something that does not come into play typically on HF, and that's polarization. This matters so much when you get into this space because you're going to probably make a fair amount of contacts that are line of sight, all right? And I think the next slide is going to probably be on propagation. We'll talk more about propagation after the antennas, but cross polarization, if I'm talking to Eric and he's running vertical and I'm running horizontal, there's a huge, tremendous loss. You're looking at 3 to 4 S units, 15 to 30 dB. I went out I think it was like a year ago, and we did a 6 meter FM POTA, and I set up a half wave dipole horizontal, and then I had the Faraday antenna on 6 meters, so a half wave vertical, and that way we could switch between the two. And awesome, Handman.
Yes.
You can see and hear the difference in the signals because some people were running horizontal, some people were running vertical, and it makes a tremendous difference. And in my neck of the woods, and honestly, across the country, those that are the serious VHF contesters that have stations, they are running horizontal. And so, it's helpful if you have an antenna like a Yagi, if you're using an HT and you can easily, turn it vertical, horizontal, depending on who you're working, that can make a big difference and is very, very helpful. So that's a definite consideration. As I mentioned, I'm going up with some gear, primarily horizontal, but I'm going to have some vertical antenna options as well. And, with the horizontal, we typically associate Yagis and, directional contacts. It can be certainly important depending on where you're located, where you want to aim. But getting that extra boost in power, I have 3 watts on FM for 900 megahertz. But I think it's a 15 element Yagi, which isn't terribly big. You can't do 15 elements for 20 meters, but you can do it for 33 centimeters, easy peasy. And
it's much easier on the wrists.
that turns the effective radiated power into 40 to 50 watts. So
Wow.
that takes an HT and transforms it into a mobile, for a simple equivalent. And it makes a huge difference. So, we definitely consider, like a handheld Yagi. The first Yagi I made was a tape measure Yagi for 220, go figure. But I wanted the ability to rotate and work people horizontal from the HT, and that made a tremendous difference.
So, two questions. One, do you mount all these just handheld, or do you actually have some of these mounted?
Some are going to be mounted. Some will be handheld. It depends how I'm setting up. I'm trying to minimize the tripods and the stands I'm going to bring up the hill. So I'll have a 6-meter dipole up. I will have the elk antenna for 2 meters and 70 centimeters. I will have that up on a stand. But then I am going to, and those will go into my 705. Mm-hmm. But then I will have in the POTA wagon will be my HT arsenal, which will be HTs on 1.2 gigahertz, 900 megahertz, and 220 that'll all be going into handheld Yagis. Mm-hmm. And so I'll work somebody sitting down in the chair on 3 bands, and then I'll get up and I'll walk over to the POTA wagon, and I'll pull out an HT with a Yagi, do one, put it down, get the other, and work as many bands as I can with someone.
Okay. And then the other question I had is do you do any actual physical exercising prep activity weeks beforehand to work the wrists and forearms?
No, it's not as, it's a lot different when you're trying satellites. But these are really quick,
Okay.
like you get somebody, and it's totally the opposite of a pile up in POTA. I'll get you, and I'll get you on 2 meters or 6, and then you'll be like, okay, what other bands do you have? And I'll be like, okay. All right, well, I got you on 6. Let's do 2 and 70 while I'm sitting down, and then I got to step out of the car, or I got to go over from the bench to the wagon or whatever. And
it's sort of safe to say you hold on to one contact through all of the bands before you get to the next guy. Okay.
Yep. Totally. That's how you do it. And sometimes somebody might jump in and be like, hey, and I'll work them, and then I'll go to, the others and stuff. But yeah, it's a lot different than your typical pile up. You get one, and when I'm doing 6 bands, right? I get one contact and I run 6 bands with somebody. Summit's activated. Done. Mm-hmm. And I get a second contact, work 6 bands, boom, the park's activated. That's it. 2 call signs.
now this is just a good segue. In essence, you can take said log you were thinking POTA. You can take said log and now throw it to tiles, and now you get grid square for many contacts across the band, and you get the multipliers for POTA as well. And you can rack up about 1,000+ points easily just by sitting there.
Yeah, and I got to check the distance. I gotta hike up and see if it's going to qualify for pack mule. I might get a pack mule too.
Oh yeah, that's a good word too. So, yeah, dude, nice.
Yeah. Now, I was talking about some of the antennas. I've made some of this stuff. Like some of the stuff simple. Like I'm gonna be using a speaker wire dipole for 6 meters that I made like 5 years ago. It's like the most basic thing. It is legit speaker wire with ring terminals into one of the BNC binding posts. That's it. You can easily do something like that for 6 meters, 2 meters, and it'll make a tremendous difference. And keep in mind, we talk about, for an antenna to perform well, you got to get it up half a wavelength or whatever.
Right.
Half a wavelength for 6 meters is like 8 feet. That's, that's my reach, It's even less, for 2 meters. This is like 3 feet off the ground. Like you don't have to get, yes, height is might, but you don't have to get these things up crazy high, and they can be tremendously effective. Yep. Vertical options, roll up J poles are great. There's something that I think we should have in our kits regardless, and a JT or an HT with a roll up J pole, if it's, 10, 20 feet up can really get out there really, really well, especially if you got some elevation. So those are some good things, and if you're just taking the HT itself, quarter wave signal stick or something like that on there is still decent if you have a good path and some elevation. I'll get into the path, I think, on the next slide when we're talking about propagation.
So technically, VHF is kind of a gentleman's band because in essence, you're like, it's not like you can't be rude when you make contacts with a guy because you literally have to wait your turn in line and you can't bitch and moan about it because, you're next and you're going to go through the whole iteration and whatnot. And so I guess with that, do you find that when you start to go through that list of bands by each of the contact, have you ever run into a place where like you don't make a contact with a certain person or they just tell you in the front that they don't have 220 or they don't have, whatever band?
Yeah. They'll say like what bands you have. And some people are like, I can't do, I can't do 1.2 gigahertz or I don't have anything for 900. It's fine. Okay. You do what you can. And some things that actually I should touch on this with the antennas. There's a lot of space in VHF and UHF. The bands are pretty big. When you look at them compared to the work bands, especially, or some of the HF bands, there's a lot of spectrum on some of these. Mm-hmm. These antennas for the contesters, not only are they typically running horizontal, but some of their stations may be tuned to the lower portion of the band. And 900 megahertz is a good example. I'll typically operate on the frequency 902.200. Because 902.100 is going to be a weak signal calling frequency on 33 centimeters. The FM calling frequency is going to be 927.500. But their antennas are not tuned up there. When I say there, I mean a lot of the locals. They're tuned for the lower portion of 900 megahertz. Right. So I'll operate FM down there. It's perfectly fine. We pick a frequency and they'll check it before I hop on because I won't hear sideband or CW over an FM transceiver. Yeah, right. So they can say, okay, 902.2 is clear, and then we'll make the exchange there. But it's something to keep in mind that antennas might be tuned to one portion of a band because of their interests and stuff. So. Yeah.
Now I can see how all the gear just starts to pile up fast.
Yep. And the tip that I have on there, and I know I said this in the beginning, when you are operating on VHF and above, everything matters more. I like to equate this to like Formula One, in the sense that if anyone's an F1 fan, like these cars are driven to the extreme. And fractions of a second matter tremendously. And this is true when you start to operate on higher frequencies, everything matters more. Insertion loss from coax, it can be huge. I have very short custom runs of coax from ABR, not sponsored. I paid for them, but I had to get some special runs that are like 3-4 feet for the handhelds. I don't want anything more than I need, and they got end connectors. You'll start to see end connectors because low loss with end connectors versus SO239s. But the connectors, the adapters, the coax, it matters tremendously. If you look at the loss at 1.2 gigahertz, between LMR 400 and RG8X for, 10, 20 foot, it can be substantial. That does not matter. You can go activate to your heart's content with, 25, 50 feet of RG174 on 40 meters. Mm-hmm. Lower bands, the loss is really not there, but the higher bands, it is. So, keep things to a minimum as far as adapters and anything you're inserting into the mix, because that loss, it definitely adds up. And this is where it pays to have good connectors and really good coax. This is where you want to make that investment if you're going to play in the higher bands for sure.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Yep. Let me see. Advance to the next. Propagation. And this is where I've learned the most. There's a lot of cool stuff, and this is why they do the contest when they do, in my opinion. because we all know height is might. Okay, and I start with the easy stuff. Line of sight for a lot of these contacts. You get up, 10,000 feet or so on some of these summits, and you're gonna be able to work people 100 miles away with just on 5.2 FM. No problem, because of line of sight and the footprint and all of that. So if you can get up high, get your antenna up higher, you're going to have a better opportunity. But the other thing when I'm talking about path is attenuation of signals. And foliage is a huge culprit. So
Chop the trees
in
down.
January, in the dead of winter, I have had no problem from one location making contacts on 900 and 1.2 gigs. But same contest, exact same location, exact same gear in June, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't make some of those contacts. Why? Because the trees have now, filled in, and there's a lot more green. Also, humidity. When you get into the UHF space, humidity and moisture content in the air can attenuate signals as well. So you get a humid day in June, and that can work against you if you're trying to operate on, 1.2 gigahertz, for example.
Right.
The fact that I'm running just 1 watt on 1.2 gigs, everything matters. Now I do have, about, I think it's like 15 dBi gain or 14 dBi gain with the Yagi. So that 1 watt is more like 10 or so. But still, it matters. And so those are some, considerations. Like, I'm going to be up high, but I'm going to have the clearest path going in the direction of where the contesters are. So if I need to work anyone on the back end, I got to go through the trees.
Frequency Frontiers had a question.
Okay.
Satellites count?
No.
They do not.
No.
Okay.
No. Unfortunately, no, they do not. So that covers, the height and the attenuation, and that kind of gets into why, June and September matter, because of the other unique propagation characteristics, tropo and sporadic E. So tropo, this occurs near large bodies of water. I'm fortunate to live off of one of the Great Lakes, Lake Ontario, and Lake Erie is not far away. Those who are on the coasts get to enjoy this a little bit more often, especially if you're in like the Gulf Coast. There's been a lot of fantastic 2-meter activity. But tropospheric ducting occurs when there's temperature inversions, and temperature inversions tend to occur near large bodies of water. And when that happens, these ducts are essentially created, and it's almost like a fiber optic cable for your signal. And when I've experienced this, 100 plus miles with an HT, just standing on the shore of the lake, no problem, making contacts. I mean, it's not elevation. Nope, you're getting in the duct, and it's just, it's like
Right.
the express lane. It's fantastic. And so usually the summer months, if you're a laker like I am, or if you're on the coast, summer months are good. So June through September is when you're seeing those opportunities for tropo, and it tends to be in the morning and then in the evening. So,
Okay.
so sort of think, like the gray lines. But that's something that can definitely work to your advantage.
Did we lose your mic?
What's
Or
that?
Did I fall off?
You fell off there. I'm still here, I think. But it says Eric is offline.
See. Oh,
So
there we go. Oh, did I drop off or you?
you did.
Oh, great. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
keep it going.
Yeah.
Show must go on.
Yeah. So anyway, tropo is really cool if you get to experience it. And the first time I got it, I was like in denial. I'm like, how is this happening? I'm thinking I got a clear path across the lake and everything. Nope. I went through and did some reading. I'm like, yeah, this is what I studied for. When I was doing my tech.
Exactly. Right.
And then sporadic E propagation at 6 meters. If you've been online at all, 6 meters has been on fire lately, and sporadic E propagation tends to happen in the summer as well. There is not a lot known. There's clear science for tropo, but sporadic E is a lot different. There's still a lot of things we do not understand about what causes these ionized clouds to form in the E region. But when you get those opportunities, man, you can really get out there with 6 meters, and so that's why these contests, my opinion, are done when they're done. You try to take advantage of things like tropo and sporadic E, and while those might not be as present in the winter months, we can at least get rid of some of the foliage.
Yeah, exactly.
and the vapor, or the moisture content in the air, because you generally don't see a lot of humidity in the winter, at least around here. It's very dry, and that can be beneficial. So yeah, but these are some unique propagation characteristics that you get, on 6 meters and above. You can get E-skip. I was telling Eric before the show started, there's some folks in my club were working Texas on 2 meter FT8 the other day. And that was because that's not tropo, that's sporadic E, which can affect, 2 meters as well. Ducting, you tend to associate a lot more with 2 meters and 70 centimeters, but, depending on the conditions, it can work for 6, it can work for 1.2 gigs, and things like that. So, so yeah.
Cool. All right, well, let's shift gears here. We'll give Mike a break to grab some water. And so we appreciate all you guys. Again, we have to thank Radiodity for basically being sponsor for today. I appreciate all of them. And so they are going to be throwing into our giveaway today a Radiodity UV5R X3. So I'm going to head on over to the giveaway here real quick. And so we're going to start the giveaway off here. Wow, we're really small. Why are we so small? There we go. And so, yeah, if you want to get in on this giveaway, again, it's for a tri-band UV5R X3. And so it might be the impetus to get you on the air more and get out there and start playing on the 220 bands and bands you might not normally use. So if you want to get it on that, the giveaway code to get things going is # 220 rocks. So go ahead and throw that in the chat. And we'll get that going there. All right, starting to see that starting to flow through. And so, yeah, we'll check back on this in a couple of minutes and back over to where Mike was wrapping things up. So, yeah, awesome stuff so far, man.
That was the last slide, yeah.
So, it was. Great. Okay. I thought there was one more. Maybe we were. Okay.
I said I could talk about, what the gear I'm bringing and some stuff like that. But, yeah, no, those are the key things, to understand. And I've learned a lot of this from just doing, and experiencing it myself, like, getting lucky with ducting, catching openings with sporadic E and seeing what that's like. Learning hands-on has been fantastic, and not being able to make those contacts between January and June and realizing, this is the attenuation. This is the, that the moisture and the leaves getting in the way, and there's even more stuff that there's this phenomenon called rain scatter, which they'll do in the microwave bands. I don't have those capabilities, but you can get skip off of the moisture vapor when you're on those really high frequencies, and it's because those like 5 gigahertz or so, the wavelengths kind of line up with the rain droplets or the moisture droplets in the air, and so you can kind of get skip off like rain clouds. Essentially, it's phenomenal. But there's some really unique stuff, in the high bands, and but ultimately learning the importance of feed line, the importance of antenna setup, understanding polarization and propagation. These are all things that can translate and make you a better operator in the HF space as well. So I encourage, get out there and do it. BNC or N connector. I like BNCs, but N connector, that's for the serious operator.
It's a power,
Yep. And if you get some of these radios, like that they're going to end up having, they might have end connectors. The 9700 is a good example. ICOM's 9700 will do 100 watts out on 2 meters, 100 watts out on 70 centimeters, and 10 watts out on 23 centimeters, 1.2 gigs. There's end connectors for 70 centimeters and end connectors for 23 centimeters, but there's a SO239 for 2 meters on the back of the rake. And that should tell you something. Like, you get into the higher frequencies, that the end connector is definitely the way to go. And it's going to be more common on antennas and radios that are in that space.
So if you were to give somebody fresh out of, technician license and they wanted to get into this contest for this weekend, what would you give for recommendations?
I would say try to go out to a spot where you get some height. Use that to your advantage. But there's a park I could go to, and I could be up like 2,500 feet, but I'm going to be surrounded by trees.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not going to work. Maybe, the attenuation is going to be less on 6 and 2, but you get into UHF, that's not going to be good. But try to get someplace where you can get up high, you can have a clear path. That's always going to be beneficial. And as for antennas, whether you're going out and you're using your mobile in your car, or if you have something like the 991A, or even just an HT like the UV 5R/3 from Radioddity, I recommend using just a simple Yagi, even if it's like a tape measure Yagi or something like that, because being able to aim and control where your signal's going is certainly going to be beneficial. And then the polarization, being able to account for that, and you're going to pick up some gain, in the process. These can be fun, simple builds, and maybe you've already done them before, but that's what I would recommend. If you got a couple radios, like a lot of times I'll be primarily operating horizontal with Yagis and Elks or dipoles, but I'll hook a couple HTs, and I'll have a pair of HTs up there with vertical antennas connected, and I'll have those just listening on 5.2 and 223.500, just in case there's some standard FM contact on there, and it's people are using verticals. So that would be my advice. There's some inexpensive tri-band radios that you can get that'll put out 3 to 5 watts on on a few bands, and you could start there. But then there's some mobile versions too, and stuff. So I think that's a good way to start out, especially on 220. There's going to be a fair amount of FM activity there, because you need a transverter if you're going to do the weak signal stuff,
right.
Or you need one of those old unicorn radios from the 80s that would do all the modes.
That you stuff your nose up to when you walk by at a ham fest, going, I'll never use that, and then you realize that would have been great. Yeah. So just sidebar, guys, it is the 0 in 220 as in the number 0, and it's O as in rock. So I know a few folks are confirming that, so it's just 220 the number, rocks spelled out. So no worries there. Question in terms of what's one mistake newer operators that start into VHF contesting make that you'd recommend to avoid?
The polarization is huge. That makes a huge difference. Before, when I first had the HT for 1.2 gigahertz, I'd have to hold it sideways to make contacts. Keep in mind, I'm only putting out a watt. Right. Everything matters with that, and so polarization is huge. So keep that in mind, and that's why you want to have some different antenna options. So I think that's the biggest thing to learn from, and there's the convention is you're vertical on FM and your horizontal, a weak signal, but that's not always going to be the case. Everyone's going to be different. So if you can have an antenna like a Yagi that you can easily switch, or you can have two antennas you can switch between horizontal and vertical. That's advantageous. Right. And
yeah, and I would probably recommend, sir, if you're definitely just hearing kind of about this contesting in the VHF space, then, hey, you can always fire up your mobile rig with you and drive around in your, weekend, doing errands with the family or whatever. And, you could hop on 5.2 and just call, CQ, and I'm sure you'll get 3 or 4 guys that are, listening, and they'll be glad to get contact with you, because every contact that they get is important, and they're going to do exactly what Mike said. Hey, do you have this band? And a lot of times everybody's got dual band mobile, so make sure your radio is plugged with 446 000, 146.52, and at least give some contacts and points out to some of these guys, because they work hard doing this stuff, and it's definitely a labor of love, but it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I'll add, I didn't touch on this when we were talking about propagation and antennas, but some people watching, you might wonder, like I did, like, well, why does polarization matter for VHF but not HF? And that's because when primarily when we're doing HF, we're not making line of sight contacts. Occasionally we will. You'll find out someone's in the same park as you, on 20 meters or whatever. But when it is going up, when the wigglies are going up into the ionosphere, for lack of a better term, they get turned. They're coming back and they're all over the place. It doesn't matter if they're going up horizontal or vertical, because they're getting all twisted and this and that, and so it doesn't matter primarily on the HF. But VHF, if you're doing line of sight, then it does matter, and it does matter for ducting. Now, sporadic E, that's the same thing as that's the skywave propagation that we enjoy on HF. On 6 meters, if you're operating on FTA, it probably isn't going to matter if you're horizontal or vertical. If you're getting some of that sporadic E propagation. But if you're getting ducting or you're doing line of sight, it will matter. So.
Cool. All right. Well, one thing actually trying to trigger we maybe didn't touch on, how are you handling logging with all of this? Like, is it just a matter of like after the fact? Are you recording it like, like we do satellite stuff, or is it just The
logging drives me crazy for this.
Sorry to open that.
But I saw that someone dropped in the comments, I got to check out Polo, that they have something special for the VHF contest that they're throwing out there this year. I was actually debating on probably just doing a paper log for the contest to simplify things, so I don't have to have my phone out all the time. But primarily, I would use my phone or computer, and I'd use Polo or Hammers. And where it gets tricky is, rovers will be operating, and they'll have like a stroke R. So if you're roving between multiple grids, then it's N2MAK stroke rover. And sometimes you put that stuff in there, it totally throws off the logger. And there's some other things where I mentioned 902.2 megahertz. I'll operate on that a lot, but some of the apps like Polo, depending on what frequency you put in, it's going to assume, he's doing CW or he's doing FT8. If you put in the FT8 frequency, it automatically knows, right? But I'm constantly having to go in and put in the frequency, but then go change the mode. No, I'm on FM. I am not on sideband. It's and then to convert the log to the right format, because I'm logging for multiple things, and I'm going to be logging for SOTA, I'm going to be logging for POTA, and I'm logging for the VHF contest, and every one of those has different requirements, and there's things that are going to count for one but not count for the other, and I usually have to sit down and carve out like an hour or two a day or so later and sort out the log situation, which is a pain in the butt, but it is what it is, I'm trying to thread a lot of needles at the same time, and so that but I'll have to give give a shot to. I'll see what they're doing with POTA, and and Andy's mentioning
Yeah,
World Radio
World
League.
Radio
I'll have to like check that out and stuff too. It's just I've had World Radio League in the back of my mind for these things, but I only do it 3 times a year, so it's one of those I haven't invested the time to learn something new just yet, and then depending where I am, connectivity is an issue sometimes, and data is in and out on the summit where I'll be. So,
yeah, you
I know
definitely
that
have to
from
back
before.
up.
So sometimes it's good, but usually it'll crap out a couple times based on my experiences up there. So I don't know. Like I said, I was planning on giving paper a shot for the first time in a while, but I might use polo or hammers. So we'll see.
Well, always curious to see how that plays
Yeah.
out. So,
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Pepe, for that $5. Appreciate
Yes.
that. And we'll add that and the previous super chats to the beard or bust meter there. So thank you guys again for putting that, and that's going up as well. And I will, say we're going to cut over to the giveaway here now. And so again, thank you, Radioddity, for throwing in this great giveaway here for the UV5R X3. And so I'll give you 2 seconds if you're just joining here late. If you throw in #220 rocks, and that's 220 numbers rocks with the O. You can get in on the chat there, and we'll just hit that loose. But again, Radioddity stepped up, and we threw out to them, say, hey, you want to be part of this? We're bringing on Mike and a few others to talk about VHF contesting, and they said, sure, we'll throw in their 220 rig, because 220 needs to have some love. And so what better than a tri-band radio? And so if you want to learn more about that, head on over to radioddity.com and check out the radio there. Maybe if you're lucky to win it today, then maybe you can participate in the next VHF contest in the middle of when was it, mid-July or whatever?
It was September.
September. Okay, so the end of September. So
yeah, and there's a couple other smaller ones in July worth mentioning. CQ Worldwide's VHF contests. They're doing one 4th of July weekend, and then the other one is 2 weeks later, I think, like July 18th or so. Their contest is different. It's only on 6 and 2 meters, which makes it easier. And then it's voice one weekend, and then it's digital the next. So I think it's FM, CW, and SSB the first weekend, 4th of July, and then I think the 18th is when it's digital, or maybe I got them backwards. But if you Google the CQ Worldwide VHF contest, you can find out. But as I kind of talked about earlier, is some people get bent out of shape with the digital. So that was their approach to it, is they split it into 2 different weekends, which is unique. But
not bad. All right. Well, with that, we are going to not wait any longer here. We're going to kick off the giveaway and hit the meter. And let's see who wins the UV5R X3. Frequency Frontiers. Excellent. Awesome. We will make sure if your information's good on the Zed, let us know there in the chat. Otherwise, send me an email with your address information, and I will get that over to Radioddity, send directly to you. So again, guys, thank you again for hanging out with us today and participating with this. This has been a blast. And so, awesome. I'm always looking forward to stuff like this in the future and being able to give aways to you guys, because heck, I love being part of the community. It's always fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, let's kind of bunch back. My gosh, let's bounce back here to our last screen there. And so, Mike, any last kind of parting thing, bit of advice, sage advice you want to pass off to anybody?
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people in the chat, I recognize, you probably subscribe to the channel. I am working on a video. I got a couple tri-band HT antennas, and I'm going to be doing a video. If I have time later on today, I might actually get to it and record it and get it out next week. But if not, in the next week or two, I'm going to do a video explicitly on tri-band HT antennas. So for radios like this, or BTEX, or some of the other tri-bands that are out there, I'm going to go through some of the options and kind of show you, here's what they are. I'll put them on. I got the special meter so I can actually check the SWR. I mean, that's just one thing. But it's going to be more about, like, here's what some of the options are. Here's some of the trade-offs between price and convenience, deployability, and all that, and stuff. So so stay tuned for that and stuff. After I did the video I just dropped the other day with one of Radiodity's multi-band HTs, which transmit on 9 ham bands.
Oh boy! Yeah,
I kind of want to wait till
one.
after I did that, and then I'll do the tri-band stuff. And I just got a new antenna just this week, a tri-band one, and that I'm going to play with tomorrow in the contest. So after I get out and I think play with them tomorrow, there'll be a video coming out. So stay tuned. So yeah. How many pounds of gear, Pepe's asking. I don't know yet what I'm going to be doing this year. Or this day is kind of getting all my stuff ready. I don't know how easy it will be to weigh it, but I have done the SOTA at this site because of Eric. I did it with, I think it was like about 40 pounds on my back, where I brought up the Yaesu 710 to this location.
Not field radio.
And did that with it on my back. I carried like an empty ham wagon just in case I threw my back out.
Now Tiles on the Air can help support you with the extra bonus points for carrying extra weight.
Yeah.
So, very good. Okay, well, dude, that was fun, and hopefully you guys enjoyed hanging out with us today. And Shannon will be back next week, and we're going to be back into part 2 of 3 series, talking about SWR and resonance and reactance and all of that, and how it affects and behaves and deals with radios and coax and stuff. So we're going to get definitely nerdy more coming forward. So if you're into that stuff, then come join us next week. And so with that, thanks again, like I said, for hanging out with us. Whether you're activating, you're hunting, the goal is simple: have fun, stay safe, keep exploring, my friends. And as always, till next time, keep your radios on, the PTT down, and POTA on. 7.